Hello friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside. I am Jenny and I am coming to you from North Carolina on a beautiful blue sky day, but it is nice and crisp here. I think the low tonight's like 28 or something like that. But here we are for our month in review and answering your questions from the various videos that we have done in the month of January. So we are going to just jump right on in and answer all of your questions. Now, we are standing here in front of the cottage garden because the first video we're going to talk about was where we talked about the 5 things that you could do in your winter garden when I was here cleaning up the cottage garden behind me. So the first question comes from Love Soil. She says, my daffodils are coming up. I am in your zone here in North Carolina. Too many to cover, but wondering, could I cut back or redo and plant the ones in pots? No need. Don't put yourself through more work than what you need. In fact, you can't see it, but I have got jonquils coming up. My snowdrops are coming up. These plants are a little tougher, a little smarter than we give them credit. We actually had both the snowdrops and the jonquils. They had foliage sticking out, and we've gotten to 15 degrees. They're fine. They're good. Just leave them alone. They'll be okay. No fret, my pet. Then Eberlin says, I love watching the before and after. Brenna is wonderful. Can you tell me the brand and availability of the fork you use for mulch? We've bought a few for hay and then they break or bend. Yours looks much sturdier. Thanks. So Jerry and I go through this every single time. We try to remember exactly what this is called. And we go to, Jerry, which one is it? What store that has it? The mulch rake that we use. It's not really called a mulch rake, y'all. Jerry's not mic'd up. He wanted me to do this solo today.
Craftsman.
It's a Craftsman. Okay, so it's made by Craftsman, and what is it called?
It's got 10 little.
Yeah, it's like a 10-tined fork.
Yeah.
So 10 tines fork, and it's made by Craftsman. So whoever carries Craftsman around in your area, go look for those. They are great. I will say, I don't know if it's the Craftsman, but they are nice and sturdy. We have a bunch of them because when we do landscape jobs and so forth and so on, many hands make light work with mulch, and so we have quite a few of them. I do really enjoy them. They are great. They're also great for picking up, that mulch and debris. Christina says, my Gomphrena is dead on the top, but I went to pull it out. It was green at the bottom. Have you ever had it over winter in your zone? I'm a zone 7B also. I think I'm going to try and see if it makes it. It got so big and gorgeous for me. Yes, I do. So what she is talking about is the Truffula Pink Gomphrena from Proven Winners. It is technically an annual for us here in zone 7. I want to say it's considered a perennial, like maybe in zone 9 or 10. A lot warmer than what we are, but in the bed that is to my right, down on the end by the driveway, I planted Gomphrena 3-4 years ago, and it keeps coming back. It is crazy. Now, that is one of the hottest spots in our yard, and it gets hot afternoon sun, so I'm thinking in the winter it doesn't truly get cold enough there to really kill the roots. If I had it maybe somewhere else in my yard, then yes, it probably wouldn't survive the winter. But no, so what I do now is I've learned, when I'm ready to clean up my bed, I just cut it all the way to the ground, put my mulch on top of it, and then come spring, once the temperatures get warm, out she pops. So Jennifer has a question. She says, gosh, Jenny, how did you ever get anything done in your yard before you had a puppy? You had puppy supervision. So what she's referring to is because that was Brenna's first real gardening video that she did with us. And puppies are like, gardening with puppies are like gardening with small children. You do it in very small doses, and then when they take their nap, you get a lot more work done. But no, she's great, and you have to train them, right, to how to respond to things, and just because you're digging doesn't mean that they dig, and just because you're clipping doesn't mean that they're biting at stuff. But yeah, gardening with puppies in small doses, let's just say that. And then Rebecca says, what is the perennial you mentioned? Vermillionaire? I've never seen it in our garden centers. So yes, Vermillionaire, but Vermillionaire is an annual. Again, it is a perennial in like the very much warmer zones, not for us. So we treat it as an annual here. I call it the hummingbird magnet. If you are looking to attract hummingbirds and even pollinators to your garden, then you need Vermillionaire. It is absolutely fantastic. It is a type of Kufia. It is very it's not a full like a petunia. It's tall and wispy. That's the word I'm looking for. Thank you, Jerry. So it's wispy. It has these orange, bright orange tubular blooms on it that are perfect for the hummingbirds to get in there. It's the perfect size for them. They absolutely love it and go mad over it. So Vermillionaire is a fantastic one to add for your pollinator garden. And then Brianna says, do you do seed starting or winter sowing? Curious how and when to do this in our southern climate. Yes, in fact, I have a whole stack of seeds that I am going to be starting inside within the next probably 2 weeks. A lot of things I do direct sow in the garden boxes behind me, the cool weather things, the carrots, the beets, the lettuces, the kale, those sorts of things I will start direct sowing in the garden. But then my hot weather plants, my tomatoes, my peppers, my basil, what else? If I want to start my zinnias inside, I'll do those. You don't have to do zinnias inside, but you know, do that. My nicotina plants, I will start those indoors so that way I kind of just get a jump on the season, so that way my transplants are nice and good size before I can bring them outside instead of, you know, direct sowing them in the springtime. So stay tuned for that video. All right. We are going to change positions just a little bit for the next video Q&A, so stay tuned. The next video on the list are 5 things not to do in your garden during the winter. And our first question comes from Franny. How can I kill upcoming flower bulbs and daylilies that are no longer wanted? I am not able to dig them up and do not know of anyone who wants to. So if you cannot find anybody that wants the bulbs or the daylilies to come dig them up, you're not able to get out there and dig them up, and you want to get rid of them, there's really only one option, and that would be to somehow kill them. There is no other way than to simply do that. So you would have to use whatever your preferred method is. There are organic sprays that you can spray repeatedly once you have foliage to kill them, or you know, you could use some sort of stronger method, but you would have to probably, especially with daylilies, because they are so tough, it might take a couple of applications. But I would really encourage you to try, I mean, you're on social media because you're talking to me on YouTube, so you know, put it out there and say, hey, free plants, all you have to do is come dig. I know a lot of people that would love to come dig up and get some free plants. So I would encourage you just to reach out there on whatever other social media platforms you're on and just say, hey, y'all come get them, they're free. The people will come. Then Cindy says, hi Jenny, I got a green stalk planter for Christmas and wondering if the Vista petunias would grow in it. I'm looking forward to visiting your new greenhouse. So I'm not familiar with green stalk. I just did a quick Google search and looked at it. I would be afraid that the Vistas would be too vigorous for that. I think they would outgrow that container probably pretty quickly. They are the most vigorous petunias on the market, and their root systems are very extensive. So maybe try, instead of the Vistas, maybe try some of the Super Bells, the Calibrachoas. You still get that big pop of color. Their root systems are not quite as extensive. They love being in containers. They hate being wet all the time. So you can certainly try that. And then there's lots of other, you know, even the mini Vistas would be a good option, but I would steer clear of the regular Vistas. Next, we have a question from Karen. Jenny, what about those pansies? They do grow during the winter here in Zone 8A, Tidewater region of Virginia, and I have daffodils that are breaking ground, and they do this in every year. They bloom in early March should they get food. So what she's referring to is when I was saying, you know, now is not the time to be fertilizing plants as far as like in the winter time. Pansies would be an exception to that. Remember, there are very few hard, fast rules in gardening. and or life, right? So in gardening, when someone says, well, you know, don't fertilize in the winter, but unless you have pansies and they need some food, then you can give them some food. But if you have those pansies, those violas, yes, they definitely can take a little bit of fertilizer. In fact, I'm looking at mine right now and they desperately need it. The daffodils, you know, you can do that, just that slow release, you know, in the ground, and that would be fine. Wella says, hi Jenny, I'm in zone 8, Northeast Georgia area. I bought Forsythias last fall and still have them in a container. When is the best time to transplant them? Can I do it now or wait for spring? So Forsythias are actually cool weather plants. They some of the earliest bloomers in the season in your garden. Those yellow bells, we called them yellow bells when I was growing up, love them. Definitely a cool plant. So and you're in Georgia, zone 8, absolutely go for it. Wherever you have the spot that you want to go put them, go ahead and go get them in the ground. Again, remember, this is a great example of there's no hard, fast rules. Now, if you were in Michigan and you're under 2 feet of snow and your ground is frozen solid, probably not the best time to plant Forsythias, but you're in Georgia, you can go for it. And going along with that question from Judy, Jenny, I have 5 hydrangea shrubs to plant in zone 8B9. Is it okay to go ahead and plant them? Judy in Pensacola. Yes, Miss Judy, it sure is. Again, you're in that warm area right now in this time of year. So yes, go ahead and get them in the ground. Remember though, you're probably going to have to supplement the water because you are in Florida, even here in North Carolina. Supplement that water in the hottest part of the summer because they're still getting adjusted, still getting acclimated, getting their roots established. So just make sure you water them in those hot parts of the summer. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to our next video, but we're not going to move locations because it was talking about pruning my David Alston roses for the first time. And here we stand in front of the David Alstons that we pruned. So we're going to jump into here, and there was probably one question that was repeated multiple times. So we're just going to jump on that one right away. Heather says, does the rule to trim all the leaves off only apply to David Alston roses, or is it true for all roses? I will preface this and say, I am not an expert in all areas. Okay, so I'm going to give you advice, but it is your job to take responsibility for your garden to do your further research. To the best of my knowledge, to the best of my research, these rules apply to all roses. David Alston is simply just a brand name. They are English style roses. So if you have an English style rose in your garden, then the same rules would apply because that rose doesn't know if it's a David Alston or not. It just knows that it's an English style type rose. So I would say if you have those in your garden, then yes, that you would treat it the same way. Also, visit the David Alston website, their Instagram page, their Facebook page. They have fantastic video tutorials, and that is what I learned and what I used to guide me on pruning my David Alstons. I watched him on Instagram. He's the head gardener at David Alston, and I did exactly what he told me to do. So there we go. But we had a lot of questions also about like knockout roses. Do you do it with knockout roses? Yes, absolutely. Do those. And even if you visit the Knockout Rose website, they say to prune them back every year like to 12 inches and to take the leaves off, so forth and so on. But do your due diligence, do some research, and then do what fits for your garden with your plants in your zone. Desiree says, thank you for the information. We will be pruning our roses soon. We had snow recently which bent the stems down to the ground. Do you get those Japanese beetles on your roses in the summer? They devour our beautiful blooms and I'm not sure the solution. Honey, yes I do. Japanese beetles are just about one of the worst pesky critters out there. They plague a lot of our plants here in North Carolina. They have spread rapidly across the United States. For a long time it was that they weren't past Mississippi, but that is no longer the case. They are rapidly spreading. Japanese beetles, for those of you that do not have them, you are very fortunate, first of all, but they're not a native bug. They came from somewhere else, so they do not have a whole lot of predators, and it is really hard to find organic methods to get rid of them. Again, I will tell you what I do. I'm giving you what I do, you do what works for you in your garden. At the most basic level, what you can do is take a bucket of soapy water out in the morning and you knock them all off into the bucket. For us here, living on 8.5 acres, we own a nursery. That is not always the most practical thing to do every single morning to get rid of Japanese beetles. I do use on my roses is a 3-in-1 rose care from Bayer. It is a fertilizer, it is a pesticide, so it kills the aphids, the Japanese beetles, and it's a fungicide, so it takes care of black spot, all those kinds of things. It's granular. You can use a spray. I use the granular. I put it in the ground every 4 weeks, and it takes care of them beautifully. So we'll have that up there for you to use. Also, it's linked in our Amazon store in the video description, so you can check that out. Again, that is what we use, but there is not, to my knowledge, unless it has come on the market within the last couple of months, an organic spray solution that kills Japanese beetles. ZTag 1P says, is this tutorial for David Alston's only? Do we prune all of our roses depending on our climate in the cooler months? I have a climbing rose that's 20 years old, but I have no idea what brand it is. So again, this is what I was just talking about. Climbing roses are going to be pruned differently, just how I pruned mine differently than what my shrub roses are. But I would encourage you to do just some research on how to prune an established climbing rose. Just Google that. How to prune an established climbing rose, and you'll get all the information you need via that way. Janice says, I love to watch people prune and work in the garden. Why is it that always the part gets sped up? Maybe you could talk while the work is happening. Please, I noticed you did that some on the Rose of Sharon. Thank you for that. So Janice, I did. When I started out the video, I was just right over there and I walked you through and showed you exactly how I do it. If we didn't speed things up, you would have a video that's 2 hours long. And after a while, Jenny kind of runs out of things to say. So once I show you how to do it and I show you the method of how to do it and why I'm doing it, then yes, we just zip through, because most people don't want to sit there and watch me. I think this job took me 2 hours. I had a puppy with me, and so it was a little long. So yes, we kind of speed things up and show you that way. But I am so glad that you like to watch that. It really is a great way to learn, and that's why we do these videos, is to teach you how to do the different tasks. All right, on to the next video. Our last video that we are going to cover today is what you need in your garden toolbox. So in this video, I thought it would be fun just to talk about some of the basic tools and necessities that we use on a daily basis in our garden. And I ask you to share your most beloved tools to go in your garden toolbox as well. Y'all, it is in the afternoon and words are hard. I tell you what, I'm getting tongue-tied today. All right, Rendezvous 84 says, thanks for your advice, Jenny. I have a question. What kind of dropper do you guys use in your hanging baskets? Can I use 2 to have a more efficient watering? Because the petunias love to have a drink, yes they do, I'm looking forward to your answer. So, we actually did a video on our front porch talking about the type of drip irrigation that Jerry set up for me with our hanging baskets, because yes, most hanging baskets do love to have a nice drink of water and fertilizer, especially when we hit those hot parts of the summer. So I'll link that and you can check that out. Also, Proven Winners has a fantastic irrigation system that is super easy for the homeowner to set up, and you can absolutely do that on your own. So the system from Proven Winners is called WaterWise, and in fact, we were just talking with the folks at PW today, and they are going to send us a kit. So we will do a video explaining that kit, how to use it. It is fantastic. But check out provenwinners.com, type in WaterWise or underneath their shop tab, and it will have it there, and you can go ahead and order it directly. But know that we will do another video on that so that we can show you in detail how to set that up. But if you can put in irrigation on your hanging baskets, do it. I told Jerry it's one of the best things he ever did for me. True love right there. All right, Lori says, do you have a lot of deer in your area? If so, what do you use to keep them from eating your plants? We've talked about this a lot. People, even though we are out in the country, people often ask us how we deal with deer in our gardens. We have deer here, they leave our stuff alone. I really think it's because we have so much open land around us. We are not in kind of a suburban setting where the deer have gotten trapped inside the neighborhood. So we don't have a problem with deer at all. I do know that there are some great products out there that you have to spray. It's a smell that repels the deer, but we have customers that use it, but you've got to be absolutely religious about spraying them constantly as a barrier around your yard. And then if it rains, you have to reapply it. So unfortunately, I'm not much help on deer resistant products. I just don't have any experience with them. Beth says, so what was the garden cart of your dreams? Which one did Santa bring you? I'm in the market for one. Well, Beth, here we go. Here it is. It's been in a couple of videos before since Christmas. You just hadn't maybe noticed it before. This is the garden cart from Gardener Supply. Jerry got it for me. I have been looking at it for years and years. It is fantastic. Yes, it is an investment, but as long as you take care of it, this thing will probably outlive me. It has these huge tires on it, which means I can move up to 500 pounds in this cart. This is nice and big. It has that great handle on it that I can just lift it up and wheel it around. Then it has in the back, this little panel just lifts up. So if I have mulch in here or if I have debris and I need to dump it, I can just pull this out, dump the cart, and then move on. So it is wonderful. I've had to already move some extremely heavy pots that would have been hard for me to carry a long distance. This thing did it like a champ, no problems whatsoever. Now, for some more great tools to put in your toolbox, if you look back at that video, I have pinned at the top a lot of the recommendations that people put in the comments of the video. But just to run through those, just a couple of them that I was like, well, duh, absolutely. So first was the Hori knife. Cannot believe I forgot that. Hori is this great, it's a Japanese type gardening tool. Tons of different manufacturers make it. So whoever you like to buy tools from, I'm sure they have a Hori. That is wonderful. A kneeling pad. Yes, I use my kneeling pad all the time. My knees aren't bad, but I have gravel or I have mulch and I don't want that digging into my knees. Something to weed with, right? I have a Cobra from Johnny's Select Seeds. It is wonderful, but the Hori will also do weeding, so that's an option. Of course, a good watering can, a good hose, a mattock. Mattocks are kind of a cross between a shovel and an axe, where you can break up really compacted, heavy, rocky soil. So if you're doing that, a mattock is great. Some sort of pest control, a hand trowel, right? Twine for tying up plants, sunscreen, and a hat. Absolutely. I always garden with a hat on and put your sunscreen on. Water bottle, you got to stay hydrated, people. You're no good if you're dehydrated and you're laying out in the middle of your garden. So drink your water. Disinfectant wipes to clean your tools. And then I thought this was a great idea. Maybe you don't have room for a garden cart or you don't want a garden cart. You can go to like a big box store and kind of where their commercial section is, and they have these black tubs that are meant for mixing cement. My mama has these and it's great. So what this viewer recommended is you can put a rope through it and then you pull it and it just slides on the ground. It is fantastic. Like I said, my mama has some of them and absolutely loves them. So that is a great option too. But I think, my friends, that is it for the day. My hands are completely icy and frozen. It is afternoon, and if you know us at all, you know that we have our afternoon coffee time. So we are going to go in, and I'm going to curl up in a blanket and have a nice hot cup of coffee and warm up. But as always, thank you so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a fantastic day. We'll see you in the next video. Bye, my friends.